handle it. That is what you do. Whatever it is, the problem at work, the financial pressure, the health concern you have not told anyone about, the relationship strain you are managing alone, the grief you processed in private and presented as resolved before anyone noticed you were carrying it, you handle it. You find the solution, or you absorb the weight of the insoluble thing and you keep functioning. You do not make it other people's problem. You do not ask for more than you need. You do not burden anyone with the full picture of what is happening inside you. You handle it, and you move on, and the world sees a man who is on top of things, and you are the only one who knows how much it costs. This is not weakness. Let that be completely clear from the start. The capacity to carry difficulty without collapsing, to function under pressure, to be reliable in a crisis, that is real, and it matters, and the people in your life depend on it. But there is a version of this capacity that has crossed a line, that has become not a strength you can deploy when needed, but a compulsion you cannot turn off, where the inability to ask for help is not a choice you make in strong moments, but a rule you follow in all moments, where being the one who handles it is no longer a role you play, but the only version of yourself you know how to be. And that version of strength, the one that cannot ask, cannot receive, cannot show the weight, even when the weight is genuinely too much, is not strength at all. It is a wound that learned to perform as strength, and it has been performing so long in so many rooms that you have started to believe the performance is the truth, that this is simply who you are, that a man who needed something from another person would be a different, lesser man, and that man is not who you are going to be, no matter what it costs. This is the psychology of men who have never learned to ask for help, and it is costing them more than almost anything else in their lives. Not all at once, gradually, in the specific places where carrying everything alone eventually reaches its limit. In the body first, then in the relationships, then in the inside of a man who has been alone with everything for so long that he has lost track of what it would even mean to not be. No boy is born knowing that asking for help is weakness. That lesson is taught. It is taught explicitly through the words, "Big boys don't cry," through "man up," through "stop being so sensitive," through the raised eyebrow when emotion appeared and the warmth when it was suppressed. And it is taught implicitly through watching the men around him, through seeing what happened to men who expressed need, through absorbing the unspoken but entirely clear hierarchy of masculine value, in which the man who needed nothing ranked highest, and the man who showed his struggle ranked lowest. The lesson arrives before a boy has the critical capacity to examine it, before he can ask whether it is true, before he can compare it against his actual experience and find the discrepancy. It arrives as a fact about the world, as a rule that the environment enforces with enough consistency that questioning it never occurs. And so the boy adapts. He learns to manage his emotional experience before it reaches the surface, to solve problems internally rather than externally, to present as fine when he is not fine, to need less visibly than he actually needs. And the adaptation works. In the short term, it works very well. The boy who does not cry does not get teased. The boy who handles things himself does not get told to toughen up. The boy who manages his pain privately earns the quiet approval of the men around him, and that approval matters enormously because it is the approval of the tribe, of the people whose assessment determines whether you are acceptable in the environment you depend on. And so the lesson calcifies. Needing is dangerous. Asking is weakness. Handling it alone is the only version of masculinity that comes with approval attached. Then the boy becomes a man, and he carries the lesson with him into his workplace, where he overloads rather than delegates, and drives himself past the point of sustainability rather than admit he cannot manage everything. Into his friendships, which stay surface level because going deeper would require revealing something about his actual experience, and his actual experience is not something he has been trained to share. Into his relationship, where his partner can feel the weight he is carrying and reaches for it, and he pulls it back because showing her the weight would mean admitting it exists. He became the man the lesson required him to be: capable, self-sufficient, reliable, and alone in the most fundamental sense, alone with everything that is real about him, in a life full of people who care about him but have never been given the chance to know what he is actually carrying. The body keeps score of this. That is not a metaphor. The chronic suppression of emotional experience, the ongoing work of managing what is inside before it reaches the outside, has documented physiological costs: elevated cortisol, cardiovascular strain, immune function suppression. The nervous system that is perpetually managing its own output runs hotter than it should, for longer than it is designed to run. And the man who has been doing this for decades carries that cost in his blood pressure, in his sleep, in the particular physical heaviness that accumulates in a body that has been working hard at something invisible for a very long time. It does specific things to relationships. The partner who loves a man who carries everything alone faces a particular and exhausting challenge. She can see the weight, she can feel it in the room, she can sense when something is wrong, even when everything he says indicates that nothing is wrong. And she reaches for it. She tries to get inside the distance. She asks questions and receives managed answers. She offers support and watches it be redirected. And eventually, not always, but often enough, she stops asking. Not because she stopped caring, because she learned that the asking produces nothing, and the distance is what this relationship is. And the man watching her stop asking feels something that registers as relief, but contains underneath it the specific grief of a person who wanted to be reached and made themselves unreachable. It does something specific to a man's relationship with himself. When you spend long enough not acknowledging your own experience, not naming it, not sharing it, not even really letting yourself feel it, you lose access to it. Not dramatically, gradually. The emotional vocabulary narrows. The range of what you can notice about your own internal state shrinks, and the man who has been strong and fine and handling it for 20 years wakes up one day with a depression he cannot name, in a life that looks correct from the outside and feels hollow from the inside, with no language for what is happening and no practice of reaching out to describe it to anyone. That is not inevitable, but it is common, and it is the cost of a lesson taught to boys that nobody ever told them was a lie. Asking for help requires the belief that the person you are asking can hold what you give them, that they will not think less of you for the asking, that the relationship will not be damaged by the revelation that you are not always on top of things. That need, expressed honestly, does not produce the response the lesson said it would produce. And that belief is built through experience, not through deciding to believe it intellectually, but through actually asking and actually watching what happens, which requires the risk of finding out, which is the thing the lesson specifically trained you to avoid. The first time is the hardest, not because it goes badly, usually it does not go badly, but because it requires overriding a response that has been automatic for decades. The impulse to manage, to present the resolved version, to say, "I'm fine," before anyone has asked. Overriding that impulse once does not rewire it, but it creates evidence. It demonstrates in a specific relationship with a specific person that the lesson was wrong here, that this person responded to the real version with care rather than contempt, that showing the weight did not cost the thing the lesson said it would cost. And that evidence, built slowly across more than one moment, is what gradually makes asking possible in a way that feels like choice rather than failure. It also requires redefining what strength means in this context, because the current definition, the one the lesson installed, makes asking categorically impossible. Under that definition, asking is by definition not strength, and the man who asks is by definition weaker than the man who does not. And as long as that definition holds, no amount of intellectual understanding of why asking matters will be enough. The definition has to change first. Strength has to become something that includes the capacity to be honest about what you are carrying, to let another person into the weight, to say, I am struggling with this and I need something from you, not because you cannot handle it alone, because handling everything alone has a cost you are no longer willing to pay in silence. Think about what you are carrying right now. Not the things you have resolved, the things that are still in motion, the financial pressure, the health thing you have not told anyone about, the relationship difficulty you are managing solo, the grief that arrived and was processed privately and presented as handled, the exhaustion that you describe as fine when people ask, the loneliness that you have not named to anyone, including yourself. Take a moment to actually inventory it. Not to solve it, just to see how much is there. Now, think about the last time you told someone what was actually happening, not the managed version, not fine, the real version. When did that happen? With whom? And if the answer is a long time ago, or never, or you cannot quite identify a person in your life to whom you have given the real picture, sit with what that means, not as a judgment, as information about how long you have been alone with the weight, about the specific cost of a lesson that felt like strength and functioned as isolation. And think about the people in your life who would want to know, not who you would burden with it, who would want to know, because that distinction matters. The lesson trained you to think of asking as burdening, but the people who love you, your partner, your close friends, the people who have stayed, they are not waiting to be burdened. They are waiting to actually know you, to be let into the real version, to have their care mean something more than maintenance of a surface connection with a man who is always fine. They want to help, and the man who never lets them is not protecting them from his weight. He is protecting himself from the vulnerability of being seen carrying it.